Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Now this is a very special video today, as I have two terrifying Hmong ghost stories about blood promises. Let's just say that blood promises in the Hmong culture is extremely taboo, and I'll explain what it is later in the video. But before we get started, consider becoming a YouTube member where you get extra bonus content as well as member-only features. Click that join button next to my channel to become a member. Also, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and without further ado, enjoy the show. This story is something that my family did not really talk about when I was younger. I only learned more about it when I got older. The story is about my uncle. We will call him Uncle Yang. By the time all of these things started to happen, he was already close to 50 years old. He had a wife, kids that were grown up, and a regular job, getting close to retirement. He was quiet. He was just one of those older Hmong men who didn't talk unless they had something to say. At family gatherings, he usually sat with the other uncles, drank beer, talked about work, cars, hunting, or how expensive everything else was getting. The story actually started long before he moved to the United States. It started when he was still a young man in Thailand at the Ban Vinai refugee camp. From what I heard, Uncle Yang was about 15 or 16 years old at the time. He was young, but back then, people grew up faster. Life in the camp was crowded and hard, but many young people still found ways to meet each other. It was around this time that Uncle Yang met his girlfriend. I won't use her real name, so we'll call her Leah. Leah was around his age. They said that she was quiet and pretty. She was the kind of girl who kept her head down when adults were around but laughed a lot when she was around with people that she trusted. Uncle Yang met her through mutual friends. At first, they only talked when they were around their friends. Then after a while, Uncle Yang started to visit her at her house. The two of them would sit outside or near the doorway while his girlfriend sewed or helped with small tasks. The adults were nearby, so they knew how to behave. Uncle Yang would go to Leah's place whenever he could. Sometimes he brought small things for her. Nothing expensive, maybe some snacks or fruits or little items that he managed to get in the camp. Leah would sit and sew while they talked. He said that she was good with her hands and she could sew even without looking down all the time. He liked that about her because he thought it made her seem calm. They talked about normal young teenage things at first. They talked about family, where they came from in Laos, who had relatives already overseas, and what kind of life they wanted one day. But as months passed, it became serious. They both started talking like they were already promised to each other. The problem was that life in the refugee camp was uncertain. Families did not always leave at the same time. Some were sponsored to America, some went to other countries, some waited for years, and they never knew where they would end up until the papers came. Uncle Yang's family got their papers first. They were going to the United States. His girlfriend's family was still waiting. At first, they tried to be hopeful. They told each other that if Yang went first, that he would write. He would ask relatives and he would find a way to get her to the United States. But that kind of promise was easier said than done. Back then, there were no cell phones, no social media, and no really easy way to ask for someone. If a family moved and you didn't have the right address, that person could disappear from your life like they had never existed. They said that Uncle Yang became very sad during those last few weeks. He still visited his girlfriend, but the visits felt different. Instead of joking, they would sit quietly for long periods. His girlfriend kept asking if he would forget her once he reached America, and Uncle Yang kept on telling her no. He told her that he would come back for her somehow. He told her that he would marry her when they found each other again. But his girlfriend didn't believe his words enough. She said that he must be lying, and that one day he might find another girl and marry her instead. A couple of days before Uncle Yang's family left the camp, he and his girlfriend went out and explored the camp. This is when they went to a secluded place and Uncle Yang asked her to make a blood promise. A blood promise is something that is very taboo in the Hmong culture. It wasn't a normal promise. A A blood promise is when two young lovers pricked their fingers and tasted each other's blood, promising that they would belong to each other in life and in death. Some people say that it ties their souls together. Some say that it gives the dead a path back to the living. And many can agree that young people only did it because they were foolish and didn't understand what they were calling into their lives. Uncle Yang's girlfriend didn't want to do it at first, but Uncle Yang told her that he was serious and that he would come back for her one day. After some convincing, the two of them decided to make that blood promise. They used a small needle. They pricked their fingers and pressed them together. Then they tasted a tiny bit of blood and promised that no matter where they went, no matter what country they ended up in, they would love each other forever. Even if they couldn't be together in life, they would be together after death. That was the promise. A short time later, Uncle Yang and his family left Thailand. When they arrived in the United States, he was still young and confused. His family ended up in Rhode Island. They had relatives that sponsored them there. Everything was different. The cold was different. The houses were different. He didn't speak English well, and his parents were trying to survive and learn how to live in a new country. At first, Uncle Yang tried to find a way to contact his girlfriend. He asked relatives, he asked people from the camps, and he asked if anyone might know where her family went. For a while, there wasn't any answers. Then, a few months later, he heard that his girlfriend's family had been sponsored by relatives in France. People said that that broke him. He didn't cry in front of people, but everyone knew that he was hurting. There was nothing that he could do. She was already somewhere in France, and from what he heard, she was already going to get married. They didn't have addresses for each other, no phone numbers, and no real way to contact one another. Many years passed, and like most people, Uncle Yang moved on because life forces you to move on. He finished school as much as he could, started working, helped his parents, and eventually met the woman who would become our auntie. They got married, they had children, and he became a father, and then later a grandfather. By then, he had already forgotten about his old girlfriend from the refugee camp. According to my auntie, he didn't tell her about the blood promise. Not because he was trying to be evil, but because he had buried that part of his life. He probably thought that it didn't matter anymore, and that it was just strange superstition. But promises like that, at least according to the elders, do not disappear just because somebody forgets. It was around this time, when he got older, that the first strange things started to happen. He was in the garage one evening, fixing something on his car. His wife was inside cooking, and one of his grandsons was downstairs playing games. The house was normal and loud, like any family home. Then, Uncle Yang heard a woman's voice call his name. He paused and thought it was his wife, so he walked inside and asked what she wanted. His wife looked confused and said that she never called him. He went back to the garage and continued working on his car. A few minutes later, he heard it again. Yang. This time, the voice sounded closer, like it came from just behind the garage door. He opened the door and looked outside. Nobody was there. At first, he thought that maybe it was a neighbor, or that maybe someone outside had said something that sounded like his name. This weird name-calling then started to happen in front of other people. One night, his family was sitting in the living room watching TV. Uncle Yang suddenly turned his head toward the hallway and said, "What?" Everyone looked at him. His wife asked, "What do you mean?" He said, "Who called for me?" Nobody had called him. His daughter said, "Dad, nobody said anything." He got quiet after that. He didn't argue. He just looked toward the hallway for a long time, like he expected someone to walk out. After that, the house started to have a strange smell once in a while. My cousin told me that it wasn't constant, that it would come and go. He told me that it smelled bad, like something rotten. They checked the trash, checked the sink, and checked the basement floor drain. They thought that maybe an animal, like a mouse or a raccoon, had died somewhere in the walls, but the smell would disappear before they could find anything. One time, my cousin told me that he was walking through the living room when he walked past that smell. So he stepped backwards and tried to smell it again, but it disappeared, almost like it went through him. It was around this time that Uncle Yang also started to see someone at the corner of his eye. At first, he said that it looked like a normal person standing in the hallway. When he turned, nobody was there. Sometimes he saw a black shape by the basement stairs. This shadow would show up around the house, like near the kitchen doorway. He didn't tell the family much at first because he didn't want them to think that he was losing his mind. However, one of the most scariest things that happened to him was the sleep paralysis. My auntie told me about how he had sleep paralysis. He said that he would wake up unable to move, and the room would be dark but not completely dark. He could see the window and see the dresser, and he could hear his wife sleeping next to him. Then, he would feel pressure on his chest. At first, he thought it was just normal sleep paralysis, but that's when he saw her. A woman crouching on top of him. She wore those traditional Hmong funeral clothes. Her hair was long and black, hanging down over her face. He could not see her eyes, and he could only see the shape of her head tilted downward, like she was staring at him through the hair. Her hands rested near his shoulders, and he said that the worst part was the smell. It was the same rotten smell that had been passing through the house, except this time it was right in his face. He tried to shout, he tried to make noises, but his mouth would not open. The woman leaned closer. Then he heard her whisper, "Yang, you promised me." When he finally broke out of it, he sat up gasping. My auntie woke up and asked what was wrong. He was sweating so badly that his shirt was wet, and he told her that he had a bad dream. But after that, he didn't sleep normally anymore. Things just got worse slowly. It wasn't every day. Sometimes a week would pass without anything. Then his name would be called again. Or he would see her standing behind his wife for 1 second. Sometimes he would still smell that odor in the hallway and knew that she was near. The paranormal activity got pretty bad, to the point where my auntie really wanted to move out. This was when my uncle started to remember that blood promise that he made a long time ago. He told my auntie that when he was young and a teenage boy, he made a stupid decision and decided to create a blood promise with his ex-girlfriend. He said that his ex-girlfriend must be dead now, and that's why she's coming to get him. When my auntie found out, she was upset, of course, but she was also scared. It wasn't about jealousy. She could see what it was doing to him. He wasn't acting like himself anymore. He had trouble sleeping at night because he was afraid of waking up with that woman sitting on him again. The family called a shaman. The first ceremony was supposed to change his name spiritually. The idea was that if the spirit was still following and hearing his old name, then changing the name might hide his trail. Many people in the family believed that it would work. For maybe about a month, things were quiet. Then, one night, he was asleep when he had this nightmare. He dreamt that his ex-girlfriend had found him. By now, she was a rotten corpse. She was still wearing those traditional Hmong funeral clothes. She said that she has been looking for him for such a long time. She said, "Do you think that you could hide from me? I've been looking for you for such a long time. And now that I've found you, I will never let you go." He immediately woke up from that nightmare, and sure enough, he was unable to move. Crouching on top of him was that spirit again. her hair covering her face. Uncle Yang was terrified and he tried to break free. Eventually, he broke free from the sleep paralysis and woke up his wife. He told her that he saw the spirit of his ex-girlfriend and that she was sitting on top of him. By now, they've done many ceremonies for my Uncle Yang. Every time they would try to hide him, but each time the activity would stop for a little while and then return. By then, Uncle Yang's health and mind was already getting worse. He wasn't crazy in a way that some people might think. He still knew who everyone was and still went to work for a while. But one thing that my auntie told me was that there were moments where he would just freeze and stare at empty corners. He would stop mid-sentence and then turn his head like someone had whispered into his ear. If a family member asked what he saw, he would say, "She's standing there." But nobody else saw anything. One day, in broad daylight, he was outside in the backyard with his son. They were moving some things over near the shed. Uncle Yang suddenly dropped what he was holding and stepped back. His son asked his dad what was happening, and Uncle Yang pointed toward the side of the house and said, "She's there." His son looked and saw nothing. Uncle Yang said that the woman was standing near the fence, wearing funeral clothes, hair covering her face, watching him. He told his son not to go near that side of the yard. Toward the end of his life, though, something changed. Uncle Yang became very sick. No matter how many ceremonies or rituals that they conducted for him, he wasn't getting any better. During his final days, he told his wife and his children that Leah, his ex-girlfriend, was visiting him again. But this time, he said that she did not look like a corpse. He said that she looked young. She looked like the girl from back then, the girl who used to sit outside sewing while he talked to her, the girl before they moved, before they had their own lives, and before she eventually passed away. Decades of life had passed between them. He told his wife that she was standing near the bedroom door, not angry, not scary, just standing there quietly, like she was waiting. His wife begged him to not go, and that they still had many kids and grandchildren to take care of. But eventually, Uncle Yang would pass away. After he passed away, the activity in the house stopped. There were no more voices, no more smells, no more strange activities. My cousin said that even though the activity was gone, he missed his dad a lot. Even now, they still live in the same house, and I still see them often. But this story is something that has been passed down in our family, so that way none of us make the same mistake that Uncle Yang made back then. Hey guys, quick message before the next story. As you know, due to everyone's undying support, our channel has seen tremendous growth in the past few months in comparison to the years since this channel has been created. As our community grows closer to 10,000 subscribers, I'm hoping to work with potential sponsors to help this channel grow even faster. This will give me the chance to try out different video formats and ideas, as I hope to one day talk in front of a camera instead of being a faceless voice. So, if all things go well, you might get a face reveal from me in the near future. If you're interested or know anyone interested in partnering up with this channel, reach out to my email listed in the description below. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting this channel, and here's the next story. This is a story from my grandpa's side of the family. I didn't witness it myself, of course. It happened a long time ago in Laos, before my family came to America. The way it was told to me, it happened when one of our grandpas was still young. For this story, I will call him Tong. Tong was from a village where everyone knew everyone. Back then, people didn't date the way that people date now. Families paid attention, relatives would talk, and if a boy liked a girl, the whole village somehow knew before he even said anything. That was how it was with Tong and Mai. Mai was the girl that he loved. Their families knew each other and were good friends. They went to the farm around the same areas. They saw each other often during the planting season, harvest, and village gatherings. From what the elder said, they were like opposites. Mai was a little bit more outgoing, and Tong was a lot more calmer and more introverted. He didn't talk much, but he was serious when he made up his mind. Everyone honestly thought that they were going to marry. Some relatives even said that they matched well because she had a strong personality and he was patient enough to handle her. Back then, people joked like that. The problem was money. Tong's family was poor, and not just normal poor, but poor enough that marriage couldn't happen right away. His father told him that if he wanted to marry Mai properly, he had to wait until after the next harvest. It was only after this that they could finally marry each other. Tong agreed. He told Mai that after the harvest, he would come to ask for her hand in marriage. Mai didn't feel peaceful about that promise. She kept asking him, "What if your family changes their mind?" And Tong told her that they would not, that everyone knew that they were already dating and they were basically already married. She then asked, "What if another family asks for me first?" Tong told her that he would speak up before that happened. Then she asked, "What if you are just lying to me?" He laughed at that because he thought it was impossible. They saw each other all the time. Their families already knew, the whole village already knew. How could he do that to her? But Mai was still uneasy. Maybe she sensed something, or she was just afraid. One day, when they were away from the village, near one of the farm paths, Mai told Tong that she wanted to make a blood promise. Tong obviously refused right away. He knew that it was not a normal thing. Elders warned young people about promises made with blood. They said that blood is not only blood, but that it carries life, and that it'll have great repercussions in the future. Mai became upset, and she asked if he didn't love her. He told her that he did love her, and that was why he didn't want to do something so dangerous. She told him that if he truly planned to marry her, then there was nothing to fear. She said that the promise would only prove what he already claimed. Tong refused again, but Mai cried. He was young, and he loved her. He didn't want to see her cry, so in the end, he gave in. They both pricked their fingers and pressed their blood together and made the promise. They promised that they would love each other and belong to each other. The two of them went on with their lives and spent time with each other like they usually did. Months passed by, and it was getting closer to the end of the harvest. However, this was around the time when everything changed. An outsider came to the village. He was not from the area. He told people that he was coming to visit some relatives. It was during this time that that outsider saw Mai and really liked her. He asked his relatives whose daughter Mai's was, and if she was already married. The relatives told him that she wasn't married yet, but that she already had a boyfriend. Still, this didn't stop the outsider. Back then, bad things could happen when a man with enough support decided that he wanted something. One day, while Mai was away from home by herself, the outsider and a group of men took her. Tong, on his way to meet her, encountered everything that was happening, but there was too many of them. He fought and got beaten back. The men left with Mai. The outsider had taken Mai to be his wife. Tong couldn't do anything about it. The man had money and power. Tong didn't have anything. For several days, Tong laid in his bed, crying and begging to see his girlfriend one last time. As the two families were getting ready to prepare the wedding, there was terrible news. Tong learned that Mai had died in the forest. She had taken her own life rather than stay with the man who kidnapped her. She said that she refused to become his wife, and so she chose death instead. Her body was found in the forest and brought back to her family. They held a funeral for her. By now, Tong was broken-hearted. He wanted to die too. He felt like the whole world was turned upside down, and he couldn't believe that everything happened so fast. They said that he stood near the funeral area like he was no longer inside his own body. He didn't cry loudly. He didn't yell. He just stared. Maybe a part of him still didn't believe it. A part of him was still waiting for her to sit back up and to go with him. After they buried Mai, people told Tong that he had to move on one day. He didn't answer them. However, a few nights after the burial, Mai came to see him in a dream. In the dream, Tong was standing near the farm patch where they had made the blood promise. It was not day and it was not night. The whole place looked gray. Mai was standing ahead of him with her back turned. At first, he felt happy because he thought that she was alive again. He called her name. She turned around. Her face looked like Mai, but there was something wrong with her eyes. They were sad. This was when she opened her mouth and said, "I came to take you with me." By now, her face started to contort and her body started to get rotten. Tong became afraid. He told her no. He told her that she was already dead. Mai asked him, "Did you forget what we promised? You lied to me. You told me that you were going to marry me." Tong told her that he could not. He said that he still had parents, he still had family, and that he was still alive. Mai looked at him with an angry face and then said, "You lied to me." He woke up sweating so badly his clothes were stuck onto his skin. After that, Tong refused to go anywhere alone. If he went to the farm, he went with his cousins or his siblings. If he went hunting, he went hunting with other men. It was during this time that Tong said that he could feel someone following him. It wasn't always footsteps. Sometimes it was just the feeling of a person walking behind him. It stopped when he would stop. Sometimes he would hear dry leaves move when there was no wind. One time, when he was on a trail, he smelled something rotten for only a second, and then it disappeared. Then, there was one night where the worst thing happened at his house. Back then, the houses were made with thatch and bamboo, and there were gaps in the walls. You could hear people outside, you could smell the night air, and if someone walked close to the home, you knew. Tong was sleeping when he heard Mai's voice call his name. At first, he thought that it was a dream. He was still drowsy and half awake. Then he heard it again, closer this time. "Tong." He opened his eyes. The house was dark. His family was asleep and he stayed still and listened. Then he heard footsteps outside. Slow footsteps, not normal walking, more like feet scuffling against the dirt. The voice came closer. "Tong." His whole body went cold. He pulled his blanket up and covered himself like a child. The footsteps came right up to the wall where he slept. Through the bamboo gaps, he could smell that foul odor again, this time stronger than before. Then, Mai's voice came through the wall. "Tong, you promised you would marry me. Why didn't you marry me?" Tong was shaking under the blanket. He didn't want to answer. He thought that if he stayed quiet, maybe she would leave. But then she called his name again. At this point, he shouted, "Leave me alone! You're already dead!" The house became silent. Then Mai said, very softly, "I will wait for you. One day, we will be together." After that, the footsteps slowly moved away. The scuffling sound faded into the night. Tong's family obviously woke up because he had shouted. He didn't tell them everything at first, but when it kept happening, he finally told his parents. His father became angry, not only at him, but at the situation. They asked a shaman for help, and the shaman did what he could. But from how the story was told to me, it never fully stopped. It only became quiet for a while. Years passed and Tong tried to move on. His family encouraged him to talk to other girls. He didn't want to at first, but he eventually agreed. But every time he got close to a girl, something happened. One girl stopped talking to him after only a few visits. Wow, tough luck, man. Her family said that she had nightmares of a dead young woman standing beside her bed, telling her to stay away from Tong. Another girl cried and told her parents that she didn't want him visiting anymore. She said that she woke up one night and saw a woman outside her sleeping area, staring through the gaps in the wall. After that, all the girls in the village did not want to talk to Tong. They knew that his ex-girlfriend, or the spirit of his ex-girlfriend, would come to haunt them as well. People in the village began to know about this, and some felt sorry for him. Others avoided talking about it. People whispered that he had tied himself to Mai and that there was nothing to be done unless she let go. Then the war changed everything. After the secret war in Laos, Tong and his family had to flee. Like many Hmong families, they crossed dangerous paths, hid when they had to, and eventually made their way to the Mekong River. As they were making their way to the Mekong River, Tong and his family were ambushed by the Pathet Lao and the Viet Cong communist soldiers. Because of this, their whole group had split up, and Tong found himself running away alone in the middle of the jungle. He said that he had managed to escape, but by now he was lost and confused. By now, the sun was beginning to set, and it was getting to get dark. It was during this time that he heard an all too familiar voice calling out for him. Tong immediately understood who it was. He was confused because it had been so long since she called out his name. Tong ran and tried to find a place to hide. The trees were too tall to climb, and as he kept running, he found this little ravine/crevice in the ground, so he dove into this hole and hid underneath it. Tong could still hear the voice call out for him from the distance. At first, it sounded far away, and then it got closer and closer. Sure enough, he heard the sounds of leaves crunching and feet shuffling through the dirt. By now, Tong was praying. He was praying to his ancestors, praying to his grandparents who passed away, praying to anything up above to protect him and to hide him. Tong then started to smell that rotten stench, and Mai got closer to him, standing right above his hiding spot. Tong was covered by the earth that hung above him, and he could hear Mai and her feet shuffling, standing right above him. Mai was still calling out his name. Tong was terrified. He covered his mouth with his hand and closed his eyes. He continued praying to the heavens, praying to his ancestors and his grandparents. It felt like forever before Mai started to slowly walk away, her feet shuffling and the voice fading into the distance. Tong was still afraid. He didn't want to peek up from underneath that crevice. He thought that maybe if he did, she might still be standing there. So he just laid in that crevice all night long until he fell asleep. By the time he woke up, he got out of that crevice. Tong continued walking and walking, lost in the jungle. By some miracle, he encountered another group of refugees. He joined that group, and a couple of days later, they reached the river, where he crossed onto the other side into Thailand. It was here that he was able to reunite with some of his families in the refugee camp, only to learn that a couple of his relatives and his family members had died during that ambush. After that, life went on. He met a woman in the refugee camp who would become his wife. They started a family, and they all moved to the United States, and Tong lived a normal life. Surprisingly, the spirit of Mai did not chase him all the way to the United States. Some believe that she couldn't cross the river, so therefore she couldn't find him. Tong is still alive to this day, still living with his family in Minnesota. Blood promises have always been one of the more fascinating things in terms of Hmong superstitions and taboos. Someone's revving their trashy Dodge Charger down my street right now. Okay, anyways, yes, blood promises have been one of the most interesting and fascinating taboos and Hmong superstitions to me, because I've always wondered how it all originated and whose idea was it in the first place. Was it like some random couple? They're like, oh my god, I love you so much. Let's make a blood promise and we'll be together forever. I feel like it's the work of evil or something, because they use love as a bargaining chip, and because these evil spirits are like, let's use this couple and their vulnerability to create a pact with them, so that way we can take their soul. I don't know, something crazy like that. Okay, maybe it's got more of an ominous origin, a more maleficent origin, a very bad origin. Who knows? But that's my theory. Let me know what you guys think about blood promises in the comment section below. I hope that this deters people from doing it. This does not condone blood promises, so please do not do it. I will say right now that if you do it, you are the biggest idiot on earth, okay? But anyways, let me know what you guys think about the story in the comment section below. And like always, consider becoming a YouTube member by clicking that join button. Leave a like and subscribe. YouTube's telling me that you also might enjoy this video on screen, so click on that if you are interested. And without further ado, I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.